Hello, this is Griff. We're going to start here in a minute. But if you're on already, if you can just let me know if you can see me and hear me and all that kind of stuff, and if I'm sideways or not sideways. Okay? If you can let me know that stuff, that would be very helpful. So I'm Griff. I'm in Humboldt, Redwood State Parks. Happy Easter for all of you who celebrate Easter. Happy Easter. I am so excited to be able to connect with you guys during this pandemic because I know a lot of you are sheltered in place and you're at home and you wish you were in a beautiful place like where I'm at, where I'm sheltering in place. So I'm glad that I can bring you here. We are right now, the old growth redwoods are right there. So this is like an ecotone. Ecotone is two different types of like habitat types or ecosystems where they cross. Okay, so we're going from old growth redwood forest back that direction to riparian forest. So old growth redwood forest, the climax tree is redwoods, but over here it's maples and cottonwoods, and then when you get closer to the river it's alder. So there's a lot more diversity of plants here because there's more sunlight, a lot more deciduous species because we're in the floodplain. Okay, and so there's, hey, there you guys are, I see ya. So this is an ecotone, and inside of ecotones where two like ecosystems or big habitat types mix, that's where there's the most biodiversity, because you have old growth redwood creatures living here and you have riparian. Now riparian means plant and animal water loving communities. So riparian areas are right along the river. So if you flew over Humboldt with your superpowers or airplane, you would see dark green where the redwoods are, and then wherever there was a line of light green, those would be maple and alder leaves and cottonwood leaves, and that would be your riparian or riverside forest. So right now I'm in the ecotone, again, the area between two major different types of habitat types or ecosystems. And this is great habitat for brush rabbits, which are what we're going to talk about today. I was gonna talk about hummingbirds, but then I was like, it's Easter, so we gotta talk about bunnies. So here's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about if the Easter bunny were from the redwoods, what he would look like. We're going to talk about why there's bunnies and Easters in the first place and how you can help bunnies from home. All right? So here we go. And I will stop and look and see if you guys have questions. There's a 45-second lag. So I might ask a question and you guys won't know that I asked that question until 45 seconds later. Yes, I wish I could shelter in place in the redwoods. I bet you do, Sarah. It's beautiful. What's up, Rick? Awesome. I know. I want you guys to come see this. This is your park. You know, this belongs to the people. Anytime you see that patch, it belongs to the people. So, happy Easter. Here's your Easter bunny. If you haven't seen an Easter bunny yet, there's, oh, little cute Easter bunny. But if Easter bunny was from the redwoods, it would look like this. So this is a brush rabbit, and I'm going to show you this picture a couple times, but if the Easter bunny was from here, that's what he would look like. Now, just in case it's too windy, I'm going to walk further into the redwoods, but before we go, this is where the brush rabbit would live. In this thick riparian vegetation, it likes really thick bushes where it gets like runways and places to hide, and it will occupy other animals' burrows to hide in and to lay its babies, have its babies. So I'm going to move more into the redwoods just so we have better sound quality here because it's getting kind of windy. So rabbits and hares aren't the same thing. Did you guys know that? Rabbits and hares aren't the same thing, and they aren't rodents. A lot of people think that rabbits and hares are rodents, but they're not in the order Rodentia. They're in the order Lagomorph. And their cousin, if you know who rabbits and hares' cousin is, put it in the comments, and hopefully I'll remember to tell you before this is over. But once again, we're talking about if the Easter bunny was from the redwoods, it would look like this. This is one of 8 cottontail species that live in California. Okay, the reason why you don't recognize this cottontail is because unlike the eastern versions, it doesn't have a white tail, but it's still a cottontail. There's 8 species in California, and one of them is endangered. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The one here is not endangered, and they're super cute. They look like bunnies their whole life. Okay, so you can see, whenever people see them, they're like, "I saw a bunny," and I'm like, "You saw a full-grown brush rabbit, I bet," because they look like bunnies their whole life. Super cute, but unfortunately, being cute doesn't stop them from being killed and eaten by all kinds of predators. So their predators include, and these are small. They like rarely get to 2 pounds, and they're like 8 to 14 inches. You know, so they're tiny bunnies. So there's a lot of predators that can eat them. They get eaten by hawks, owls, foxes, coyotes, raccoons, even weasels, big snakes, and also by your dogs. And that's why we don't allow dogs here. And if you have a service dog, and make sure it's on a leash, because we don't want them killing our bunnies either. Okay, bunnies don't have a lot of habitat left in some parts of California, so we want to make sure they're safe here. Also, our neighbors have houses and they have cats, and feral cats, and your house cats, those are from Africa. That's an African cat. They didn't evolve here. They're non-native species. And since they're subsidized with cat food, they still kill, but they just kill and they kill and they kill. Instead of killing, eating, and sleeping, they're killing, and then bringing you home one of the 7 things they killed as a gift, and then eating at your house. So just, we don't want any cats in the park, okay? So these bunnies, if the Easter bunny was from the Redwoods, it would look like this. These bunnies are really a really important part of our ecosystem, and once again, they are in the order lagomorphs. They are not rodents. And the difference between them and hares is they're different species. So a jackrabbit isn't really a rabbit, it's a hare. And jackrabbits are born fully furred out and ready to go pretty soon. They get bigger and they have long ears. And then rabbits are born and they can't regulate dwelling heat and they need their moms, okay? So much more than jackrabbits do. So hares and rabbits are like sheep and goats. They can't breed. And this is, those of you who are late coming on, this is rabbit over here. Like, we're kind of in the Redwoods now, but if you see that thicket over there, these rabbits like thickets, and if you were to see them, you would see them on the trail of the road and they would dash real quick into the thickets. So do we have any questions so far? Hey, Julie, Sandra, what's up, Rick? Michelle, Tiffany, how's it going, Julia? All right, so I'm gonna move on here. So did no one figured out what the other lagomorph relative was? There's hares, rabbits, and there's one other one in the lagomorph. So if you can figure out what it is, let me know. Okay, so how did bunnies and Easter, how did that happen? Because Easter is a religious holiday. It's about the raising of Jesus, who is considered the Messiah for Christians. And how did Easter how did a bunny that lays eggs and the word Easter get involved? And so I did some research on that. It's not super clear, but the prevailing theory is that there was a goddess in Northern Europe called Eoster. And she was like the goddess of fertility. And so rabbits, think about it, were a symbol of fertility. Okay. So she was a symbol of fertility, and she was also, eggs were kind of like symbols of rebirth. And so during the spring vernal equinox, in the 21st of March, she would be like the main goddess they celebrated, and they'd paint eggs, and they would have their fertility symbols up there, and it was a pagan holiday, an indigenous European holiday. And when missionaries from Rome came up to Christianize the Northern Europeans, they found that it was easier to incorporate some of the indigenous Europeans' beliefs into Christian holidays. And so that's where the rabbit and Easter, the name Easter and the rabbit and painted eggs, came into the Christian holiday. Heard something big over there. So that's where the Easter bunny came from. The Easter bunny is ancient from European culture. And painted eggs too. And some places and some people still celebrate the Easter version of the spring equinox and have painted eggs, and it's been going on before Christianity. So super interesting. So I mentioned that I saw a rabbit the other day. Okay. So the other animal that's related, the other lagomorph, the third lagomorph is Cottontail. No, there's Cottontail rabbits there's 8 species in California. And that's one of them we're talking about. It's a type of Cottontail. And then there's hares. So rabbits are one, hares are the other, and they're different species. So jackrabbits, which is actually a hare, and a brush rabbit couldn't make a baby together. They're different species. And then the third one is, ready? Pika! So pika up in the mountains, those little rabbit-looking creatures, those are the other lagomorph. So one of our 8 indigenous, super cute, looking like a little bunny rabbits, is endangered, and it's called the Riparian brush rabbit, and it's in San Joaquin. So if any of you are from the San Joaquin River Basin, that's where they live. That wasn't a COVID cough. I have allergies If I had COVID cough, I'd be, well, I am far away from everybody. And so don't worry about that. I've been having allergies so bad this year. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, brush rabbits, the riparian brush rabbits, which is endangered. So riparian brush rabbits used to be all over the place, but over 90% of the San Joaquin's riparian, remember that word, riparian, riverside forest, was destroyed, converted into ag land and into homes. And then there's just these fragmented islands, you know, small little islands where the rabbits were just kind of interbreeding, and then they were more susceptible to diseases. And then if there was a fire, there was no place for them to go because they would just run into bare soil during the winter, you know, and get eaten by, you know, there's easy to pick off by coyotes and dogs and cats and everything. So, and then we've leveled all the land in the valley too, so there's no high parts. When there was a flood, there was no place for the rabbits to go except for onto levees and railroad tracks where there's no cover, no vegetation cover for the rabbits to hide in. So they would get picked off by predators. So what a group called the River Partners did was they built these bunny mounds. So they would acquire land, you know, usually with Fish and Wildlife Service money or donations, and they would build these islands, these raised islands where the rabbits could go. And then me and the California Conservation Corps crews that I supervised at the time, we would go plant them really dense, really thick, like how brush rabbits like it, brush rabbits. So they like thick brush and coyote bushes and all that stuff. And we plant that really, really thick. So when there was a flood, now that the land was flattened, there was some place for them to go so they didn't all drown. So the drownings and then the isolated fragments of habitat, the little islands of habitat surrounded by a sea of ag land, all those things contributed. In the non-native species like cats, house cats, feral cats, contributed to their near extinction. So they're starting to come back. There's breeding programs now. There's people that are trying to save the habitat, restore the habitat. So thank you for those of you who are involved with that. And I was very, very happy to be involved in that for a while too. So to help brush rabbits, another thing you could do is you can keep your cat indoors, get a catio, keep it indoors because cats are responsible for a lot of deaths of brush rabbits. You could also join land conservancies like Save the Redwood League. Save the Redwood League has saved all these, like Save the Redwood League has saved thousands and thousands and thousands of precious wildlife habitat and giant old growth redwood trees. And there's probably a local land trust, a local land conservancy near you that you could support. There's several where I'm at. There's a Mendocino Land Trust, a North Coast Land Trust, Trinidad Land Trust. There's a lot of land trusts up here, and they survive off donations and have volunteer events to help restore habitat. And so if you can connect with one of those land trusts near you, you could be part of the solution and help brush rabbit and lots of other wildlife too. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to do this same talk again at 3:30 on the Humboldt Redwoods page. And where I'm going to continue talking about bunnies and how you can help them and how we got bunnies in our Easter. So maybe you can go share that with your kids, that Easter is named after a goddess, from Northern European goddess, who was celebrated for spring during the spring equinox, and her animal was the hare because it represented fertility, and painted eggs because they represented rebirth. And that has been going on for thousands of years, probably, maybe more than 3, 4, 5,000 years. I don't know, but it's super interesting. Look into it. Join us every day at 3 p.m. right here. We are doing lives, and we also are doing ports programs from all over the state that would really help you if you're homeschooling your kids right now. You could go to ports-ca.us, and there's interpreters, nature guides like me from all over California that are giving like 45-minute presentations that are super interesting and will help you expand your awareness and appreciate living in the best state in the whole entire union and having California state parks that protect this wonderful wildlife habitat. So honored to work here and very happy that you guys joined me, and I will answer your comments and questions you have when I get back in my office. So one more 360 of this ecotone. Ecotone, once again, is where two ecosystems meet. So the old growth redwoods are meeting the riparian or riverside forest here. And so you have more biodiversity, variety of life. Biodiversity means variety of life. And so you have all kinds of interesting creatures here. And I come down here at night and there's so many insects and bats. I love coming down here at night. Okay, I'll see. Hey, Steve. And you guys can check out Steve at Mendocino. Steve, why don't you put your page in there? Mendocino Parks also does live streams, and you can see all kinds of interesting stuff in Hindi Woods and the marine protected areas down there and everything. So I'll be at Humboldt Redwood State Park's page at 3:30 to talk about bunnies again. Happy Easter!